Okay, today we're going to talk about metric conversions. All right, we're going to learn how to convert units. Okay, now this could be difficult for some, but we're going to go through it. I'm going to give you some rules, and we're going to learn the staircase method. All right, first of all, you just did a nearpod over what the metric units were. All right, these are your base units right here. Remember that grams measure mass, meters measures distance or length, all right, and liters measure volume. Now, these prefixes go in front of these base units. Okay, so they go in front of them. So if I have, for example, if I have kilo, that's the prefix, gram, all right, notice that it is 1,000. Kilo stands for 1,000. So kilogram means 1,000 grams. All right. If I had deciliter, all right, deci is 0.1. So if I have a deciliter, then I have 0.1 of a liter. All right, prefixes go in front of our base unit, and we use them to make things simpler. All right, so is it a whole lot easier to say I have 6,200 grams, or is it easier to say I have 6.2 kilograms? All right, we're definitely going to say this is a lot easier to write. And if you're typing, it's a lot easier with prefixes. And sometimes when we're measuring things like little tiny atoms, all right, they're so tiny that we have to measure them not even in milli, but there's pictograms and nanograms, all right? And it makes us from having to write, it saves us from having to write a bunch of zeros all the time. All right, and that's the important thing. Now, when we use these units, these prefixes on top of our base units, sometimes we want one prefix when we have another. All right, so maybe you're doing a problem. All right, you're doing a problem, and they give you kilometers, but you really need to have it in centimeters. All right, so we're measuring the length of a table. All right, this is too big for that, and we really need this one. We're going to learn how to convert between these two. Now, there's a math way of doing it and stuff, but what we're going to do is the staircase method. This is the staircase, all right? This is the staircase method. Also called the ladder. All right, the ladder method. All right, and I'm going to give you a couple steps to these problems. All right, step number 1. You're going to figure out where you are starting. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and have a little example down here in the bottom. So say I'm going to go from 30 grams, and I want to convert to centigrams. Okay, so number 1 says figure out where you're starting. If you look at my example, I am starting at grams. Okay, Now, if we look at our ladder right here, we see that gram is just by itself, all right? And any letter by itself, whether it is grams, liters, or meter, is a base unit. So I'm starting on this stair. Okay, that's what grams is starting at. Number 2, figure out where, where you are going. Okay, well, looking at my example at the bottom, I'm going to centigram. All right, the C allows me to see a difference between gram and centigram. The C added on says, I'm right here. This is where I'm going. All right, where I want to finish up. All right, so I have to convert 30 grams to centigrams. I'm starting at the base unit. All right, so this is my starting point. This is my finishing point. Okay. Step 3. Count the number of steps to get there. Okay. Okay, so this one isn't that bad. We could go, okay, well, I'm starting right here. I go 1 step, 2 steps. I went 2 steps to the right. Now, the direction is important, and it's going to come up again. All right, it's going to be used. And then next step, the direction. Let's clean it up a little bit right here. All right, step 4 says move the decimal the same amount of steps in the same direction. Okay. Now, if we look at this problem, all right, I moved the decimal the same amount of steps in the same direction. So how many steps did I take? I had 2 steps to the right. All right, so I'll look at my example problem. All right, I got 30 grams. Do you see a decimal there? No. All right, but do we know where the decimal is? Yes. All right, it's 30 with a decimal at the end. The decimal always comes at the end unless present. All right, now it says move the decimal, same amount of steps, 2 steps in the same direction, to the right. So we're going to move the decimal 2 steps to the right. It looks like this. 1, 2. The decimal is now right there. It is no longer after the 3, 0. But I got these gaps. What go in those gaps? Well, we put zeros in those gaps. All right, so the answer is 3,000 with the decimal at the end. So 30 grams is 3,000 centigrams. All right, that's how we do metric conversion. We count the steps, all right, and then we move the decimal the same amount of steps. Okay, so we're going to do a little practice on the next slide. We're going to go through the steps together. We're starting at meters, 12 meters. All right, so that's right here, my base unit. That's my starting point. We selected that as our starting point. Okay, so here is hectometer. This is our finishing point. Okay, so we're going to take the same amount of steps in the same direction. 1, 2. I took 2 steps left. Little chart thingy. Okay, we got to figure out where we're going and where we started. So let's go over here. I'm starting right here. All right, and So I'm finishing right here. Okay, how many steps is that? 1, 2 steps to the left. All right, so we moved. All right, so we're going to go from 12 meters to hectometers. So 12 meters, and I'm going to hectometers. All right, so let's go with our steps. All right, so see, meters is by itself. This is not milli. All right, this is not ilm. This is millimeter. Ilm by itself is just meter. So that's why we're going to hectometer. Okay, so I got to move my decimal 2 steps to the left. Where is the decimal? It's at the end unless otherwise shown. So right there. And I'm going to take it 2 steps to the left. 1, 2. There's the decimal right there. So this is my new answer. 0.12. So 12 meters is 0.12 hectometers. Okay, we're going to do one more. Okay, so it says I got 0.45 milligrams, and I'm going to decigrams. All right, so how do I know that that was deci instead of deca? Okay, well, because deca is just a single D, and deca is DA. All right, so this is decigrams. Okay, so I started with milligrams, going to decigrams. Decimal 2 steps to the left. 1, 2. My new decimal is right there. Okay, and now we got 2 gaps again. So what goes in these gaps? Zeros. Okay, so my new answer that I would write down is 0.0045 decigrams. So make sure when you are working on a problem like this that you get rid of the decimal once you move it. All right, you can only have 1 decimal in a problem. That's how that goes.